guys, it's me again, Chariza, and in this video, for the second time, I'm going to share with you my personal views on the contents of the two books, the Torrentera and the Philippine Source Book, as well as the supplemental topic from Professor Roland Dalagan. This reflection will be all about history or the historical events. We all know that the Philippines has a fascinating history. We have been conquered or invaded by various countries in the past. Our forefathers, our Filipino heroes, fought through revolution and risked their lives for the sake of Filipino independence. The official declaration of Philippine independence is one of the most treasured milestones that we Filipinos achieved in our rich history. As I read the topic, I realize that I'm very fortunate because I have gained my freedom, and thanks to the Filipino soldiers and heroes who fought the colonizers with courage and dignity. I felt the happiness every time we celebrated the Independence Day because it shows how much we appreciate the efforts, dedication of our beloved heroes to free our country. They deserve to be remembered by the generations of today and the years to come. Their heroic acts are immeasurable and must be appreciated as much as we appreciate the endowment of our sovereignty. Like our warriors, I am filled with patriotism and nationalism, and as a criminologist, I have this bravery and courage that I will be using not just for reducing crimes, but also for defending our country. Now let's go on to the 1899 Malolos Constitution. What is 1899 Malolos Constitution? The Malakas Constitution is named after the 10th capital of the Philippine Revolutionary Government, the first constitution ever drafted by the Filipinos. To fully understand this constitution, one must consider its context, centuries of Spanish rule over the Philippines, insurrections against Spanish authority and later against the assumption of sovereignty by the United States, and a gradually growing sense of nationality that nourished in the blood of martyrdom grew into a common and ardent desire for independence. The Constitution was developed for the first time by representatives of the Filipino people led by Felipe Calderon and assisted by Cayetano Arellano. The Mexican, Guatemalan, Costa Rican, Brazilian, Belgian, and French constitutions serve as an inspiration for the 1899 Constitution. The 1899 Constitution helped enshrine the rights of Filipino citizens denied by the colonizers. While reading it, I felt the happiness within me because for centuries that we are colonized by Spain, finally we are able to acquire freedom. This constitution is a result of our heroes' solidarity and heroism. To honor them, I shall do my duty to be abiding citizen just like our constitution. I carried myself full of pride, freedom, and honor. Threaty of Paris. After the United States declared war on Spain, Aguinaldo saw a chance for the Philippines to gain independence. On May 19, 1898, he returned to Manila and aided the United States in its struggle against Spain. On June 12, Aguinaldo declared Philippine independence and became the country's first president, but then Threaty of Paris happened. I am relieved that the Spanish-American War has ended, but the signing of treaty by the two countries has created a new difficulty for the Filipinos. The Filipinos believed that they had attained complete freedom. The revolutionaries led by Emilio Aguinaldo even contributed to America's victory. However, America's purchase of the Philippines from Spain constitutes a type of betrayal and treason. Like our forefathers and heroes, I've been betrayed by the people I trust. America did the same through the Treaty of Paris was intended to bring peace between two opposing countries. However, occupying a country that just gained independence is unacceptable. As I read the topic, I felt nothing but sadness due to the fact that my beloved country was colonized repeatedly before achieving complete freedom. Now let's go on to the Jose Rizal retraction. What would you feel if the person you trust or the person you adore will retract all of his statements the moment he faces death? Dr. Jose Rizal was identified as a hero of revolution for his writings that center on ending colonialism and liberating Filipino minds to contribute to creating the Filipino nation. His most influential works were the Noli Me Tangere and Il Filibusterismo, which discusses the wrongdoings of the Spanish government, notably the friars. He criticized the Catholic Church but retracted all his criticism a minute before his death. After reading, I feel compelled to learn more about our country's history. I personally believe that Dr. Jose Rizal didn't retract his own writings and publications. His long journey in writing leads to our independence. Whatever new research and truth emerges concerning Rizal's retraction issue, it will not diminish his glory as a Filipino and as a Philippine hero. I see myself with Dr. Jose Rizal because, like him, I am also compassionate. I look at everyone equally, and I am willing to fight for the peacefulness of our country and for the rights of every Filipino people. Let's talk about the convention between US and Great Britain. The United States and Great Britain Convention was an agreement between the government of United Kingdom and the United States to delimit the boundary between North Borneo, then a British territory, and the Philippine Archipelago, then a US territory. The convention was signed on January 2, 1930 in Washington, D.C. by U.S. Secretary of State Henry L. Stimson and British Ambassador to the United States S. M. Howard. It was ratified by the United States in February 1930 and by the United Kingdom in November 1932 following clarification through exchanges of notes between the two governments in 1930 and 1932. It went into effect on December 13, 1932. The convention stated that the line separating the islands belonging to the Philippine Archipelago on the one hand and the islands of the to the state of North Borneo, which is under British protection on the other hand, shall be and established as follows: all islands to the north and east of the said line, and all islands and rocks traversed by the said line, should there be any such, shall belong to the Philippine Archipelago, and all islands to the south and west of the said line shall belong to the state of North Borneo. Upon reading this topic, I learned a lot of knowledge regarding with our geography. It, it is nice to learn many things about your history and how every country are connected with each other at some point. I myself understand the concept of setting boundaries and how relevant it is. Through this, everyone could understand each other's limits. Now let's talk about the Commonwealth Act number 34. Throughout history, the limits of women independence have been seen. Many state and federal constitutional amendments, court and Supreme Court judgments, and women's organizations provide evidence of women's struggles to attain equal rights. Many of individuals considered suffragists or women who battle for the right to vote to be immoral. What is the Commonwealth Act's main purpose? Commonwealth Act number 34 is now in effect, an act to provide for the national defense of the Philippines, penalize certain violations thereof, appropriate funds, and for other purposes. An act to provide for the conduct of plebiscite on the topic of the woman suffrage. The Supreme Court ruled that the Act's Article 6, which states that the suffrage shall be extended to women, if in a plebiscite to be held for the purpose within 2 years after the adoption of this Constitution. Equal rights are crucial because they ensure that the people have access to the resources they need to meet their basic needs such as food, shelter, and education. This enables them to make the most of every opportunity. Furthermore, guaranteeing life, liberty, equality, and Security safeguards people from abuse by those in positions of power. We shall be able to live a life of freedom if we as women are given full access to our rights. It covers a wide range of issues including equal pay, suffrage, and many others. Lastly, a country can only change if its women have a say in everything are treated equally. Are you guys familiar with Bataan Has Fallen? Bataan Has Fallen radio message broadcasted on April 9, 1942, the surrender of Filipino and American soldiers in a combat against invading Japanese forces at the commencement of World War II, was announced with the words Bataan has fallen. What should we know about the Battle of Bataan? Norman Reyes was the broadcaster for the Philippine Commonwealth Army's Voice of Freedom station. The siege of Bataan was the first major ground fight for the Americans in World War II and one of the most devastating military disasters in American history. Bataan is a province in the Philippines on the island of Luzon. The force in Bataan, with 76,000 Filipino and American troops, is the largest army ever to surrender under American leadership. Officials in charge of Bataan, where Filipinos and American forces fought the Japanese, publicly surrendered on April 9, 1942. From Malinta Tunnel in Corregidor, 3rd Lieutenant Normando Ildefonso Reyes, reciting a message prepared by Captain Salvador P. Lopez, notified the Philippines and the world. Bataan has fallen. Many men perished, and those who survived were tortured by images of their suffering friends. There have been many strategic conflicts in American history, but none quite like the one that occurred in February 1942. It was a war to liberate our country, the Philippines. What was the purpose to be an uplifting address about the Filipino and American soldiers' resistance and dignity turned into the plea for help? Next one would be Mindanao Peace 1, 2, 3. Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao are the three island groups that make up the Philippine archipelago. Mindanao, the third island, is known as the Land of Promise because of its abundant biodiversity and natural riches. The area is rich in natural resources, but it also contains horrific truth. During the Spanish colonial period, the word Mindanao is a Spanish distortion of the Maguindanao people's name, the dominant ruling ethnic group in the Sultanate of Maguindanao in southwestern Mindanao. The first Mindanao Peace 1, which is about tea, simply composed of three letters that led to enmity and oppression. There are four nationalities involved in this enmity: the British, Dutch, Chinese, and Tausug. The enmity occurred simply because of the tea, bird's nest, pearl, mother of pearl, chapang, and tortoise shell, which are the essential commodities at that period. Human labor and exploitation were also the source of enmity at that time. The Hanging Coffins at Sagada, a town in the Cordillera Mountains in the Philippines, Mountain Province. At the political power are the key topics in Mindanao Peace 2. Sagada's hanging coffins have long been used to bury their deceased, which are fastened to the sides of cliff faces high above the earth. The coffins were hung because it was believed that the higher the dead were placed, the more likely their spirits would attain a higher nature in the afterlife. Many of the coffin locations are difficult to approach and should definitely be left alone out of respect, but they can be appreciated from distance. This topic also provides a brief discussion of the life of the Sultan of Sulu, Panglima Taupan, and the entire Nuño family. The Sama Balangigi of Zamboanga, Basilan, and Tongko Islands were led by Panglima Taupan. He battled for his people's independence against Spanish incursions and led raids against them. Lastly is the Mindanao Peace Treaty, which covers the Moros' cultural assimilations and Filipinization in the agricultural colonies of 1913. The goals of agricultural colonies are to divert homesteaders away from congested areas of Luzon and Visayas to enter the Moro and Pagans through large-scale migration of Christian Filipino settlers and to eliminate the threat of Mindanao separation from the Philippines. This is because separation has been suggested repeatedly by Americans interested in plantation development. I am really happy knowing that I have gained so much knowledge about the history of Mindanao, a place where I was born and where my family is currently improving over time. The discussion of this topic is very beneficial for us, for me, especially for those people who live in Mindanao because it allows us to see what really happened in the past and to be enlightened.